Hi, my name is Doug Noll. I'm a speaker, teacher, author, and peacemaker, and I've dedicated my life to understanding human conflict. I've learned that emotional competency is the path to peace and happiness for every person, and I developed a new website, empath.help, to provide resources for highly sensitive empaths, and a place for the non-empathic to be trained in empathic skills. In a few minutes, I'm going to talk about the difference between a trained and an untrained empath. But first, let's see how you score on an empath test and find out if you're an empath. So I have borrowed Dr. Judith Orloff's 20-question empath test. Take out a piece of paper, and for every statement that you answer yes, make a little tick mark, sort of like this. All right, are we ready? Let's start with the empath test and just make a tick mark for every statement that resonates with you, that you feel is true. And this is totally subjective, no right or wrong answers. Have you been labeled as overly sensitive, shy, or introverted? Do you frequently get overwhelmed or anxious? Do arguments or yelling make you ill? Do you often feel like you don't fit in? Are you drained by crowds and need alone time to revive yourself? Are you overstimulated by noise, odors, or nonstop talkers? Do you have chemical sensitivities or can't tolerate scratchy clothes? Do you prefer taking your own car places so you can leave early if you need to? Do you overeat to cope with stress? Are you afraid of becoming suffocated by intimate relationships? Do you startle easily? Do you react strongly to caffeine or stimulants? Do you have a low pain threshold? Do you tend to socially isolate? Do you absorb other people's stress, emotions, or symptoms? Are you overwhelmed by multitasking and prefer doing one thing at a time? Do you replenish yourself in nature? Do you need a long time to recuperate after being with difficult people or energy vampires? Do you feel better in small cities or the country than large cities? Do you prefer one-to-one interactions or small groups rather than large gatherings? Good. If you need to go back to pause or scrub back through the video to catch questions that maybe we went through too quickly, do that until you get a complete answer. And now let's calculate your results. If you answered yes to 1 to 5 questions, you're at least partially an empath. Responding yes to 6 to 10 questions means you have moderate empathic tendencies. Recording yes to 11 to 15 questions means you have strong empathic tendencies. And if you answered yes to more than 15 questions, you are a full-blown empath. Now, if you scored above 10 on the empath test, you have a great gift, but you might not think so. Being an untrained empath is both wonderful and terrible. When someone is sad, you feel just as bad and the sadness lingers inside you. It can be depressing and frustrating. Sometimes you understand what they're feeling, but you're unable to do anything about it. And you may find yourself sitting next to them, feeling with them, but not providing much of the comfort that they want. And when someone is happy, you share their happiness and you feel great. Being an empath means you may avoid negative, depressed, angry people, as well as people with mood swings. And finding genuinely optimistic people is rare. Your mood, mentality, and actions are dependent upon how the people around you are feeling. And so being an untrained empath can be exhausting. So what is the difference between a trained and an untrained empath? Well, first of all, the empath test that you just took may not be accurate for a trained empath because the trained empath has control over her emotional sensitivity. So what is a trained empath? A trained empath has learned how the brain constructs emotions from affect. She knows the difference between affect, emotion, and feeling. She reads other people's emotions instead of wallowing in them. She practices the skill of affect labeling, both to herself and with others. And through this knowledge and practice, she can discern the difference between her emotions and those of others. She learns not to take responsibility for how others feel, and the emotions of others do not trap her. She becomes a healer and a leader. Her sensitivities become her strength and power. Well, if you're not an empath, what does the empath test tell you? In our manifesto at empath.help, we declare that being emotional is normal and healthy. If the empath test shows that you might have low empathy, you might consider leveling up. Developing empathy increases your emotional intelligence, and your ultimate happiness depends on your mastery of your emotional life. And like many people, you may have been emotionally abused as a child. And your parents probably could not help themselves as they were abused themselves. Your parents loved you but had no clue about how to handle your strong emotions as a child. As a result, they emotionally invalidated you, and this is what caused you to be less empathic. Emotions may be uncomfortable or scary. They may make you anxious. You may wonder what to do with an upset friend or child. You may be shut down or emotionally unavailable. You may even believe that emotions are bad or evil. These are the classic signs of emotional abuse in childhood. The training for highly sensitive empaths will increase your empathic abilities from the other direction. When you learn about emotions, affect, and feelings, you connect your prefrontal cortex with your emotional centers. You learn how to read emotional data fields. And after some initial anxiety, you learn how to reflect the emotions of others. And as you master these skills, you become more empathic. You are less anxious around emotional people. You can calm anyone in literally seconds while remaining centered. Emotions no longer scare you, and you learn how to create emotional safety for those around you. The empath test is a good place to start, because when you understand your level of empathic sensitivity, you can act. So is this interesting? Leave your comments below, and if you liked this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. In my next video, I will talk about empaths and intuition. What exactly is an intuitive empath? If you are interested in learning more and want to join our tribe, visit https:// empath.help.